welcome to the broadcast and live stream of Moonshot Radio. Moonshot Radio is generously sponsored by the PNC Grow Up Great program. And here's your host, Dr. Nivea Torres.
Greetings and welcome to Moonshot Radio, where every moment is an opportunity to learn. I'm your host, Nivea Torres, Executive Director of the Kindergarten Readiness Collaborative, also known as KRC. Our vision is that all children in Indian River County will be ready for kindergarten. We proudly partner with the Moonshot Moment, who is transforming the next generation in Indian River County by having 90% of all students reading on grade level by the third grade. With me today in the studio, we have a very special guest, Representative Erin Grall. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And your energy is contagious, I hope.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I do want to start by saying thank you for everything that you do. You are a local and state champion of early learning education, and that's really what we try to promote through this show. So thank you. You make our job easier as well.
You're welcome, and I appreciate everything that you're doing in Indian River County. You really are a role model for the state and the country on these issues.
Thank you. Now, let's start by sharing with folks, Erin, a little bit about why you're so passionate about early learning education.
It happened, I think, maybe a little bit by accident, because it happened before I had children, and in the early 2000s was drawn to the work that Child Care Resources was doing, and helping with childcare for the working poor, really 150 to 200% of poverty level, who weren't covered by any other state or federal programs. And in order to understand what they did and to become more involved, I really started to look at the science of brain development and what the potential was for our youngest learners. And they're all things I feel like I knew intuitively, but when you really start to look at the science of brain development and understand that potential that can be unlocked with the right interventions, with the right activities, with just the loving, caring environments for our youngest people, you really see how you could cut down on deep end services that we need and have in our country, or prison systems and literacy, and you can solve so many problems by just really focusing on those early years. And it just spoke to me in great ways. And then I had my own kids, and I saw it before my eyes, what they were capable of before they were even verbal. And I thought, wow, it was just like watching that science come to life. And now they're 6 and 8, so I feel like we're moving out of the early years. But I see what that foundation did for them, and they're just incredible little intellectual minds. And they're opportunities all children should have.
Well, thank you for saying that. So you research, you know what brain research says about the first 1,000 days in a child's life, and now you're living that through your little ones, and clearly you're very passionate, and you want that for all of children, not only in Indian River County, but statewide. You've been very vocal about this this expression that you use that I really like. You use it at an event, and I actually wrote it in my pad. I'm like, I want to ask her about that. The drools and diapers, and this misconception that people have about what child early learning is.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And sometimes I feel like, I'm going to overuse some cliches, but that's one that just, it struck me early in my service from, in my elected service. Someone said, well, why do you care about this topic? Isn't this just babysitting, and this is diapers and drool? And I said, oh my goodness, I have so much more work to do here. I need to educate you. I need to educate my colleagues and make sure that because I feel like it's the topic that when you are not with little ones, when you don't interact with them regularly, it's very easy to forget what they're capable of at such a young age and what they're learning. And so and all people don't have the opportunity to be around small children and interact with them and see that potential, but we're all affected by how we, by our early education system, and our future workforce is going to be affected by our early education system. So it should matter to everybody. It should matter to people who are going to need caregivers in the future, to people who want to make sure that we have a robust economy, and to dumb it down to something as simple as diapers and drool just really, it broke my heart, really. And it told me that we need to continue to educate people where they are in their life about the potential of young children.
And I'm glad you mentioned the reasons why we should all care. Because for some of us who are in the field, it makes sense. We're either educators or we're very passionate about this. But for people who might not have children or might not be connected, they're like, well, why is this important to me? And you talked about the workforce. I read an article recently that said that the jobs of tomorrow or 10 years, are not, the jobs now are not going to be around. These jobs now, there's going to be new jobs. So we're clearly training this generation for something that for many of us is foreign and it's unknown. And that's why we should care, because it will ultimately impact our quality of life, right?
Yes. Oh, no, 100%. I mean, and to think that we don't know what those jobs are that we're training young people for, what we are educating young people for right now. It's to be, the way I look at it with our children, it's to be problem solvers. It's to take in the world around them and see what they can do to find solutions to the challenges that are in front of them, that are in front of other people, and also, the services in general. I mean, I think as we have an aging population, we see needs in the healthcare industry, we see nursing needs. All of those jobs require individuals with abilities to provide those services, requires, an educated workforce, and it will ensure that, our elderly are cared for with the dignity that they deserve. And so I think that there's a lot to be said about how early learning touches every single one of us.
And you're also very passionate about the early learning providers and how can we partner with them. Can you mention any outcomes or any indicators when you visit, for example, a center? What distinguishes one from one that might be high quality from one that might need a stronger partnership, for example?
Well, I think that, that's the age-old question is always, what are the right outcomes? How do we measure success? And that looks different. That looks different under 5 than it does for a kindergarten classroom. That looks different from K to 3 than it does for high school. And so we have to make sure that we are using research-based, age-appropriate developmental screens or assessments. And in the early learning space, the most effective tool that the most effective centers and providers have high quality teacher-child interaction. And so it's not always about the square footage of a facility, the toys that a child has, or curriculum per se. That curriculum could be left in its saran wrapping and sit on a desk and never be touched. It has to do with the way that the adults in a child's life interact with them and how a teacher inspires young minds to be creative, to play. And it is about play. I've walked into centers where there are no words spoken, and it's heartbreaking. You wonder how you have a 4-year-old that's holding a book upside down and doesn't understand just the kind of the basics that you would expect a child who has probably been in childcare from the age of birth to 4 to have had exposure to numeracy and literacy and language. And when it's silent, that they haven't, and that those years have just been wasted. And their brain has not had the benefit of the development and the synapses and the charging of, just getting it ready for life. And it's you still never give up on that child, and you never give up on those children. But we do have the ability, I think, with better accountability systems and structures to make sure that that providers that are allowing that to be their status quo aren't providing services that are subsidized by the government any longer. And that's how I look at that partnership. The government should not subsidize those partnerships. And we need to make sure that we're accountable for the tax dollars that we have in this space, because they can change a child's life and a family's life.
And those are two valuable indicators that there's robust language, that children are interacting, and the adult-child relationship, that teacher is really critical. It doesn't matter necessarily if you have the latest gadgets and there's no language taking place. We like to say that a parent is a child's first teacher, but we also recognize that those teachers in a VPK classroom in a preschool setting are very important and very valuable. How can we continue to support them and recognize them, understanding that there's sometimes a pay differential and other challenges?
No, I think that we need to always be cognizant of training opportunities and make that training free or at low cost to preschool teachers. And when I say preschool, many times I'm talking zero to kindergarten. We also need to, it's difficult, I think, to keep ratios. Just the operation of any childcare facility can be a challenge. And I saw that when I was with Childcare Resources on their board as we opened our center, and this was probably back in 2008, I think, or 9. And just it's expensive to keep the right child-teacher ratios in place to ensure that you have high quality. But it's about prioritizing those things as an organization or as a business, and realizing that if you do prioritize the teacher training, that you can have lower turnover, and having lower turnover means better outcomes for children as well. It will always be very difficult to compete, I think, with the K-12 system, just because if you earn your bachelor's degree and you're a certified teacher, it's very difficult to provide those benefits in childcare facilities. I have been working on the funding formula in the state of Florida for how we reimburse school readiness children and the rates for different levels of care. And I think that there has not been equity in those formulas for actually since the inception of the program in the, so in the early 2000s, late 1990s. And if we can really understand the true cost of care, and that we are able to, increase rates accordingly, that should assist providers with being able to hold on to those great teachers who do not necessarily need a bachelor's degree. I mean, I think that it's a misconception to think that you need a bachelor's degree in early education. You do need robust training and tools and an understanding and willingness to learn about the children developmentally where they are. And so I don't think that it's something that, in terms of credentials, we have to encourage a bachelor's degree. It's helpful, obviously, but it is very difficult to keep individuals engaged in that process with the pay rate where it is now. So I think it's about other benefits that we can try and add to that.
And sometimes those benefits really create a better quality of life for the employees if you're giving them training and you're looking at the classroom ratio, because being a former educator, classroom ratio is sometimes very challenging, and that can impact your energy for the day when you have 20 or 25 little ones and you don't necessarily have additional assistance.
Exactly.
Erin, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
At the Kindergarten Readiness Collaborative, our vision is for every parent, regardless of income or zip code, to have the knowledge and tools they need to raise healthy children that are prepared for kindergarten. Our mission is to support our partners in developing a high-quality early childhood system that is family-centered. Our outreach and parent engagement specialists connect with families and build trusted relationships. KRC has chosen Fellsmere and Gifford as our two focus areas in Indian River County. Our Fellsmere office is located downtown in the City Annex, and our new Gifford office is located within Victory Park Apartments. Our administrative offices are now located adjacent to Healthy Start and Treasure Coast Community Health in Vero Beach. The Kindergarten Readiness Collaborative, developing a high-quality early childhood system for all children in Indian River County.
Everyday activities are great for finding moments for talking and teaching new words. Babies' brains grow 80% in the first 18 months of life. As parents and your baby's first teacher, you can help build their brain with language and literacy skills. Involve the whole family. Ask questions. The more words babies hear, the larger their vocabulary. Everyday activities are great for finding moments for talking and teaching new words. Babies' brains grow 80% in the first 18 months of life. As parents and your baby's first teacher, you can help build their brain with language and literacy skills. Involve the whole family. Ask questions. The more words babies hear, the larger their vocabulary can grow. Support early childhood education by talking, reading, singing, and family engagement. This message has been brought to you by PNC Grow Up Great and the Florida Grade Level Reading Campaign.
We all know that baby Jesus was wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger that first Christmas morn. Hi, Tom Rhodes here, owner of Sunshine Laundries. We may be able to clean your clothes, swaddling or otherwise, but God cleans your soul. Wishing you and yours a very Merry Christmas.
Okay, folks, we promised we'd go live to our thrifty shopper who spent the last 2 hours walking the aisles of the Habitat Restore in Vero Beach. Courtney, are you there?
I'm here, Jerry, and I've already found enough bargains to rent a small truck.
What? We sent you there to describe what shoppers can expect at the Habitat Restore.
I know, but I can't help it. They have the greatest selection of all kinds of stuff. I've already found a cute dinette set for my apartment. Then I saw the most comfortable leather recliner for my husband. I've needed a set of dishes, and guess what? I found just the perfect pattern. You just never know what you're going to find because the inventory here changes daily.
But you're supposed to be working.
No law against having fun at your job.
The Indian River Habitat Restore, 4580 North US Highway 1 in Vero Beach, is open to the public 6 days. Revenue generated at the Habitat Restore helps to build 1 in 3 Habitat homes in Indian River County. Shop, donate, volunteer at Habitat Restore in Vero Beach.
ITEX, or International Trade Exchange, is the largest barter company in the world with over 25,000 members offering goods and services. We're a marketing company that brings you new business in the way of trade, with over 200 local members enjoying the benefits of ITEX, like lawyers, doctors, plumbers, media, printing, and more.
Hi, this is Liz Bowler. Contact me and find out why barter through ITEX has been smarter for over 30 years. 772-532-1881. Visit itex.com.
Join Ballet Vero Beach as they present Nutcracker on the Indian River this holiday season. This uniquely local take on the classic tale returns December 30th and 31st at the Vero Beach High School Performing Arts Center. This spectacular production features Ballet Vero Beach's professional dancers, sumptuous costumes, and amazing sets. For tickets, call the box office 772-564-5537 or go balletverobeach.org.
We're back to Moonshot Radio, where every moment is an opportunity to learn. I'm your host, Nivea Torres, Executive Director of KARC. And with me today in the studio is a very special guest, Representative Erin Grall. Welcome back.
Hello again. Good to be back.
Could you share with us what we can anticipate for the next legislative session and anything around early learning?
Of course, I would love to. And it was a bit frustrating last year to not have some of the VPK accountability cross the finish line, but I think that we laid the groundwork for what will be a big year. And really, I'm in the final phases right now of what is around a 130-page bill, and it's really about transforming Florida's early learning system and landscape. And there's a VPK accountability component, which would redefine the way that our providers have been evaluated by the state when it comes to the outcomes with the students that they have. And it would focus on the learning gains that the children experience during VPK year. It would focus on a class score, which would be really a measure of that teacher-child interaction. You know, what does the program look like? and on really that the kind of post of the learning gains would be, where that child is at that time. I think some people push for, we need to have a paper pencil test. And I look at them, I'm like, have you met a 4-year-old? Paper pencil's not really developmentally appropriate.
No.
I was lucky when my son and daughter were 4, if I could get that pencil, just their hand-eye coordination, everything else, that's just not where 4-year-olds are. No. So we need to be sure that we are using tools that are appropriate for young children. And so part of the bill that I am working on also has a progress monitoring tool that would be put in place for VPK to 3rd grade, so that we are really using a similar tool throughout the state, throughout the school districts, that we can identify, that really informs instruction. I do not believe that we need to overtest children, but we need to have the appropriate tools in place to inform instruction and to help parents, to help teachers and parents become partners in the education of their children, and make those suggestions about what you can do between VPK and kindergarten to make sure that your child is ready. Or if a child's not ready at the end of VPK, what are the wraparound services that a community has to provide over the summer? Because those 3 or 4 months are valuable brain development. It's still valuable brain development time. It is not, the window is open and children can learn. We just need to make sure they're in the right type of services. But parents need to have that information in real time. So everything that I'm suggesting in my bill would make sure that that information is communicated with parents within 7 days, so that they can make real decisions, that they're not finding out in the middle of kindergarten that their child's not ready, because they trusted in a system that said, okay, if your child goes to VPK, they'll be just fine and they're going to go into kindergarten and they'll be ready. No, they're finding out, when there's still time to make good decisions and work on specific, just maybe challenges that child has. So there's so much more in the bill. It's really about bringing Florida to a place where we have an early learning to 20 system, as opposed to a K-20 system, and bringing the Office of Early Learning into the Department of Education. Oh. It's really restructuring there. Also looking at the Gold Seal program for quality when it comes to school readiness, and making sure that our school readiness children who are at Gold Seal providers, if Gold Seal providers are maintaining the teacher-child ratios, maybe they need an increased differential payment, but they have to maintain those ratios that the accrediting entities require, that our accrediting entities actually are meaningful, that they're making site visits, that they're making sure that providers are doing what they say they should be doing, that it's not just, a checking the box and you sending in your fee for the year and all of a sudden you're accredited, that there's a meaningfulness to that entity. Other things, looking at the Just Read Florida money and the reading allocation, and, should that be prioritized to VPK to 3, as opposed to just spreading it out over a whole K-12 system, when we know that if we focus those dollars earlier, we may not have major reading problems as children move through their education. And so I think that there's just a lot of exciting things that I look forward to having the conversation about in the very near future.
Well, we look forward to learning more about your bill as the session unfolds. And please let us know how we can be advocates at the local level to keep seeing more improvements in the early learning field, not only here in Indian River County, but statewide. So on behalf of everyone at the Moonshot Community Action Network, we want to thank you for your continued advocacy, and thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you very much for having me. And thank you to all the people in this community for the example they set statewide on how the partnerships between philanthropy and government can only serve our children and families better. Thank you.
Thank you. And until next time, this has been Moonshot Radio, where every moment is an opportunity to learn.